cards are being sold at the back. Proceeds go to Wow, and I think somewhere else as well. Is it just Wow? Macmillan and Wow. So, friends, have a look at the card. If you see somebody there, don't create a big queue. Just maybe one or two at the table at a time. But they're there, and they'll be on sale every week now for quite a while. Thanks very much. And it's lovely to see you.
Good morning. Yeah. Do you want some good news? Yeah. It's not raining. The sun's out. See? I've stopped singing. Someone said that I'd brought the weather with me because I'd been singing. You know that the sun always shines in Torbay, don't you? We never have rain in Torbay. Never. You know, yeah, well, I wish. Rachel sends her love. She's so sorry she can't be here. She was due to go to Leeds to look at a university with Hannah and has come down with a stinking cold. So actually, I've got to be honest, I'm glad that I'm here and I'm not at home risking myself getting the cold and worse than that, having to look after her. Because there's nothing worse, is there? I have to do it all. You know, she just switches off. But, you know, she does send her love and she was absolutely gutted. Her quote was, I'm going to miss the piano, was what she said. So, you know, for those of you who don't know anything about us, I think most of you know us. As a church, you've supported us for many, many years. And I was just thinking as I was sat there, as Jerry was being so rude to certain people. I've known him now for like 17 years, I think it was. You first came too long. Yeah, and to be honest, it's about time he bought me a meal, to be honest. To be honest, I've been his friend for 17 years. That's worth a meal alone, isn't it, to be honest? But, obviously we're doing what we do. We're working predominantly with women and girls in India, Africa, Philippines, and Bulgaria. And obviously as an organisation, you've watched us change over many years. And some people have said, well, why do you focus in on women and girls now? And I was just happened to be Googling the other day, and some of these statistics that I found actually summarise exactly why we do what we do. When you consider that gender inequality is a major cause and effect of hunger and poverty, and it's estimated that 60% of the chronically hungry people in the world are women and girls. Women make up more than 2/3 of the world's 796 million illiterate people. Women, this one, I was like, what? Women in sub-Saharan Africa spend around 40 billion hours a year collecting water. You can't comprehend that when you go to your tap and you just turn it on and you've not had to walk 3 kilometres to go fill your water bowl in the morning just to do your cooking and clean your teeth. That when it comes to income, if you put the women... terrible, sorry to say this, chaps. But when it comes to income, if you put the women in charge of child nutrition, health and education, improves when you put them in charge of the finances. Every additional year of a primary school that a girl spends in primary school increases the girl's eventual wages estimated by 10 to 20%. It also encourages them to marry later in life and to have fewer children, and leaves them less vulnerable to domestic violence. That's why we do what we do. That's why I'm passionate about seeing lives transformed. We do all of those things in different aspects, but ultimately the underlying thing of what we do and why we do it is to tell them that God loves them. Yeah. To tell them that he loved them so much that he sent his only son to die for them. We want them to know that they're of value, that they're of worth, that actually despite what society might have told them, the fact that they might have been abandoned, abused, neglected, and all some of the horrendous circumstances we hear about on a regular basis, God loves them so much that he sent his only son. And actually by empowering these women with education, with training, with business development, actually we can help them to help themselves to break the cycle of poverty. You know, we've moved from the give mentality to a hand-up mentality. And the transformation in these women's lives is unbelievable. Before the COVID situation hit in, we did a survey in Uganda with the women, and there's 75 women on the project there. And we did a survey of them about, are we meeting your requirements? What more can we do to support you? How can we partner with you more? What can we do differently? Are you happy with what we're doing? And actually, every single woman who completed that survey said, I want to be able to provide for my own family. Every woman wants to be able to put food on the table, wants to be able to send their child to school. And by the projects that we're doing, by empowering these women and giving them the opportunities, and with the perma gardens that you've heard us say about, they're feeding their families. They're making enough money to send their children to school. We're actually giving them that hand up, not a handout. I'm going to show you a media clip, and hopefully we're going to have sound, and if it doesn't, it's all his fault at the back. I love my job. I absolutely love it. But, you know, that's the first time I've watched that media for about a month with not being out. And actually, as I'm looking at that media, you saw Mama Julia, the lady with the grater, who you've heard me talk about. Sadly, she passed away. So I was, you know, she's an incredible lady who at the age of 86, 87, passed away, but was determined to send her grandchildren by baking those cassava seeds to school. And then you saw Jessica with the house, who we celebrated. Jessica, again, in the last 10 days, passed away and has gone to meet Jesus, who she knew so well. You know, and I got to admit, I spoke to Harrison, our project leader, and I was a bit like, flipping heck, could we not have done more? What could we have done? You know what? Like, Harrison just turned around to me and said, but you need to understand the legacy that we've left because of her. And I'm going, well, what do you mean? And he said, that house is now passed on to the next generation. Jessica, as an individual in the community where she built that brick house, actually was so well known, and everybody who came into that area knew that she was part of the WOW project, knew that she'd become a Christian, saw the transformation in her life, and actually now that house has been passed on to her family who will live in that house, all because people like you, this church, got behind WOW, and we were able to support Jessica to build her own house, giving her that hand up, not a handout, giving her the opportunity to do it for herself. You know, and over the last few weeks, the last couple of years, I don't know whether you've heard, but there's been a bit of a global pandemic going on. I don't know what you lot are wearing masks for in Burton. It's, you know, but it has been a game changer in so many areas. And sadly, we've not been able to get out to the projects. And one thing that I'm sure we'll all agree has made a massive difference for us in the UK and in lots of areas is how easily we've been able to communicate with one another. And we take that for granted, don't we? That you can pick up your phone, you can send a text. If you're really lucky, Jerry, being the great pastor he is, will text you all individually every week, doesn't he? That's if he can remember how to turn his phone on. But, you know, it's great, isn't it? But, you know, actually what we've done, and we take that for granted, and the reason I'm saying that is, with the women in Uganda, we've got the women working in clusters, and all of a sudden we were not finding out quick enough about information. So I was talking to her and I said, why don't we buy mobile phones for the women? Why don't we just buy each cluster leader a mobile phone so they can then send in a message, send in information, send in prayer requests, and we can service that need better. So all of a sudden, we've just in the last few weeks, we've given every single cluster leader a women who's in charge of a mobile phone, who's in charge of 12 women, so we can get the information back quicker. And already, that's actually been benefiting in the fact that we've been able to address one medical need quicker. We've been able to get food out to one of the widows quicker. So we've given out mobile phones just to make communication quicker and better. So Uganda has gone really well. In the last 10 days, we've just finished planting the next lot of trees in the forest. So that's 1,250 trees that have been planted in the last week. And you ask, okay, why are we planting trees? Yes, it has we're all aware globally of what's going on and the carbon footprint and everything else like that we're trying to sort of like improve. But actually for the project, by setting up this forest where we're aiming to have 10,000 trees, for every thousand trees that is harvested, I've got the wrong teeth and I've got Jerry's teeth in. For every 1,000 trees that is harvested, and in the next 6 years we'll get our first harvest, that will generate 33 to 35,000 pounds for the project. So the aim being that every year we'll always be able to harvest a season of trees. And when we talk with our project leaders, and this is where we're going with getting them to open their mind to missional thinking, that to shift them from a mindset of it's all about me to actually what can I do. When I sat with Harrison, our project leader, and we're talking about it over Skype, and we're talking, I said, what do you want to do as we progress? He said, I want to use some of the money that we get from the trees to invest into other WOW projects around the world. How amazing is that we can start to change the mindset of the thinking of our project leaders from a give me to a handout mentality where they can go on and bless others. You know, when you look at India a few months ago, we've all been aware of those horrendous scenes that we were suddenly hit. And I was just, again, Google's great for information, and I was reading an article just the other day that actually it's estimated that between 2011 and 2019, within India, the number of poor people that lived on less than $2 a day dropped from 340 million to 78 million. Wow. But then this little thing called COVID came along, and the number would have continued to fall to below 58 million people. Sadly, because of COVID, that number has risen, and it's estimated that a further 75 million people have fallen into poverty because of the COVID situation. You know, over the last few months, we've been able to continue feeding and giving out aid and preparing fresh meals every day that have been given out on the streets. But what we're looking at now, we want to move it from a reactionary thing where we're meeting a need to a development project. So we're now looking at coming alongside a group of 50 women in Coimbatore to actually give them micro-business training, to take on a business development manager where he can work alongside them. It might be a simple business like selling plastic bowls on the roadside. It might be producing some food that can be sold at local hotels or roadside sort of like shacks, but actually it's empowering them to be able to provide for themselves. You're aware, obviously, I think probably not the last time, but the time we were before here, where we had Lawrence and Getsy with us. Obviously, Getsy sadly passed away a few months ago. Lawrence is doing okay. I think I've spent hours. He's probably, I'm almost on my favourite sort of like call list for what's going on. Speak to him at least twice a week. He's doing okay. It's a massive adjustment, and he said the other day, I seem to take 2 steps forward, then I take a step back, but I am moving forward. So it's a big adjustment. His daughter, Binti, she's had some health issues, so I think he's found it hard going back to the same hospital to deal with the things he's had to deal with. So just continue to pray for Lawrence in what he's going through. You know, for those of you who know, Rachel wore that denim dress that she wore for the year. Thank goodness that year's over, seriously. Do you know what, though? It's not good for my bank balance. All of a sudden, I keep seeing these parcels turning up on my doorstep, and she goes, I've just bought and if I hear, well, I've not bought anything for a whole year, one more time. But actually, as a result of that, Rachel raised over £16,000 for the project in Ethiopia. And actually what that's done is, again, we've got 20 women that we're setting up on micro businesses. And the guys in Ethiopia have been absolutely phenomenal. When you say to them, could you do this, this, and this, they come back within days with a list of what they've done, with all the requirements that we've needed. And they've come back with a group of 20 women that are now actually have started their businesses. And that might be, again, very simple businesses, selling fruit, bacon endura, barbers, taxi drivers, minibus drivers, all these things that we've invested into these women that they're actually all being trained on now. We've got a business development manager who sat with them, and we've made them all write a business proposal. We've invested a capital sum into their business. Over a period of 18 months, they'll pay that back, and that will then allow us to invest into another group of women. So actually, the aim being, it's not going to come completely self-sustainable, but actually, it's a major step forward. And that's all from Rachel deciding to wear the same dress for a year. You've seen on the video, Mozambique. Russ, there's a cake shop in Mozambique. It's got mine and your name on it. We could take Jerry, but they don't do jam donuts. And as an ex-policeman, it's no good for him, is it? But, you know, all of the projects have done really well. So thank you for your continued support and prayers. There are certain COVID restrictions, as we're sort of like finding. Philippines is still under a really strict restriction. If you're aged between 16 and under, basically you're only allowed out for 1 hour a day in the Philippines at the moment, in the slum areas where we're working. So continue to pray for them. That's probably had the worst impact on one of the projects that we're working with there, working with the kids. So continue to value your prayers and everything you're doing. Thank you so much for all your support and all your prayers. It really is a massive encouragement to me and to Rachel. Bless you. Tell what, I knew there's a reason I bring Rachel, because I'm having to do it all. And do you know what? I got up this morning, and yesterday I had to iron my own shirt. This is the thing of having a sick wife. I had to iron my own shirt. Yeah. My mum was busy, so she couldn't do it. I tried. But, you know, as I was ironing my shirt, I thought there's a damp mark on that shirt. So I ironed over it, folded it, put it in my bag. It's not a little wet mark. It's a little great big greasy mark that, now I've ironed it, is spread across my shirt. That's why I'm wearing my jumper. If I take my jumper off, I'd have to stand like this for the rest of the service. But, you know, it is great to be with you. And I want to thank you all again. And thank you especially to Dot and Hazel for all you do. Absolutely phenomenal. You know, round of applause. You really are, you know, a massive encouragement to me and Rachel. And it's nice of you to join us, Hazel, and not be on holiday for this time. So, you know, if you don't follow her on Facebook, it's like a global tour around sort of like England, isn't it? You just, you know, oh, Hazel's at a Starbucks. But it is great to be with you. You know, over the last few weeks and over the last few months, we've been asked to do different recordings for different churches. And you know, it's very different, isn't it? Sitting in front of a camera and having to go and talk in front of a... There's no reaction, and I don't get to poke fun at people like I do with other people. But, you know, there are some advantages, I suppose. But actually, one of the questions that we had to answer when a church was doing a missions evening, they said, why do you believe in mission? So my question to you this morning, and hopefully we'll get some answers out of this time together, is why do we believe in mission? Actually, the first thing that came to my mind was, actually, I believe in mission because it's a God-given commandment. It's the Great Commission. It's not the Great Omission. We're all called to do something. And when you read that in Matthew 28:18, the Great Commission is something we're all called to do. But actually, that's a fairly easy answer. But I just sat for a few minutes and thought, actually, why do I believe in what I do? And actually, when I stopped and I thought about it, actually, the reason I believe in it is because it was demonstrated to me by my parents in how they did their life, in how everything that they did and the lifestyle that they led reflected mission. You know, having missionaries to stay. I used to enjoy it but hate it at the same time because I had to give up my bed. And I used to have to sleep on an airbed at the bottom of Mum and my Dad's bed. And that was not pleasant if you ever heard my dad snore. That's something else apparently I've got from him as well. But actually, you know, I remember sitting at the top of the stairs having been sent to bed and listening to some incredible missionaries tell their stories. But actually going on from that about how Mum and Dad, you know, and it's a shame, you know, when you look at it now, Dad passed away 10 years ago. And actually I look at it and you think, this is something I should have told him. But actually he inspired me, spray that again. He inspired me to be who I am today because of the way that he did life. You know, and actually when we talk about how we can do mission, for me, I love mission in India, Africa, wherever it is. But actually for you, your mission field is right here in Burton. You have the opportunity to be the good news to somebody that you work with, that you see in the shop, that you pass every day in your street, that you have the opportunity to do mission on a daily basis. And actually when I drilled through, for me, when I looked back at why I believe in mission, actually there was 3 keys that I looked back and reflected on that I saw Mum and Dad do, that actually we've become the core of what WOW is about. When we talk about working with our partners and when we talk about working with churches, actually there's 3 keys that we focus in, and we hope that we get it right. I'm not saying we get it right all the time, but it's there. And those 3 keys that we focus on are relationship, accountability, and transparency. And when you talk about those, they should, if you get the relationship right, the other 2 should follow. And actually by investing time into people, by getting the relationship right, you start by doing that. And actually I thought, well, okay, so why do we do life in relationship? Why bother? You know, despite what you might see up here, I would quite happily, if you put me in a room of people that I don't know, I'm so uncomfortable. I'm so far out of my comfort zone, it's unbelievable. But actually, when I come to doing this, it's, you know, we always used to say, you know, your dad would be one person when you talk to him, but actually when he got on the platform and Jerry saw it, he became a different person. But actually, you know, that is reflected in who I am as well. And actually we do life in relationship because actually it's safer. It's safer to be around people that are like-minded. It's safer to spend time with people that will build you up, not rip you down. It's important that we have people that are a positive influence over us than actually just pick away at you. We've all got friends like that, let's be honest, that if you spend time with them, they pick away at you. And actually the question I ask, and we used to do this with Rachel's dad, he was one of those incredible people that you could, regardless of how you were feeling, you would go and spend time with him, and when you left, you would always feel better than when you got there. What do people think when they spend time with you? Do they feel uplifted? Do they feel inspired? Do they think, oh, flipping heck, that was hard work? I'm not just talking to Jerry at this point when we talk about spending time and it being hard work. You know, but actually, how do people feel when they spend time with you? Hannah, our daughter, is now 22 years old and is doing incredibly well. Hard to believe, isn't it? She's grown from that to this, and if you saw her, she looks like a mum, right to the point where she opens her mouth, then you know she's mine. She's ace. But actually, you know, a few years ago, she went to a Life Church college, as you know, and one of the sessions that he did in college was who you do life with. And actually, you know, we were talking about it after, and I said, right, what did you get from that session that you've done? She said, Dad, I've learnt that I need to swim with dolphins, not with sharks. I need to swim with dolphins. And I'm like, you what? I'm paying all this money for you to go to college to do this, and that's what you come away with it. But actually, that fundamental that she's taught has put Hannah in such a good place that she recognises certain people are good for her, and other people aren't so good for her. So actually doing life in relationship is so important. It's supportive. Actually, there's an African proverb that says, when you run alone, you run fast. When you run together, you run far. And actually, we're on this earth for a period of time where it's not a race. It's a marathon. And we need to make sure that we finish the marathon and we finish it well, that actually we don't burn out along that journey, that we have the time, that we invest the time to spend it well. And we do that in relationship. Actually, doing relationship with others, it's smarter as well. because we learn more by working alongside each other. Proverbs 28:26 says, whoever trusts in his own mind is a fool. When you put that into Andy David language, it's who's to say that I'm right anyway? What's to say that the thoughts and the process that you're going through is right? Because it's only you that are thinking about it. Ephesians 4:16 says, as each part does its own special work, it helps the other parts to grow so that the whole body is healthy and growing and full of love. We talk about working smarter, not harder, to the women in Uganda. When we see the perma gardens, you've seen them on the media in the past, actually spending 20 minutes a day doing the perma garden as opposed to spending hours and hours a day doing the traditional farming, reaps them a better harvest. But initially, we could see the skepticism in the women's eyes as they stood there and went, but actually to see the transformation in their mindset, to see that actually it works. And now, we're 5 years since we've done the training, to see the women sending their kids to school, putting food on the table, and it takes them 20 minutes a day. And actually, our relationship with our Heavenly Father is so important that we spend time, that we invest that time into listening to what God's got to say to us. I'm talking to myself as much as I am to you. I am the worst in the world that when you get up in the morning, you pick up your phone, and the first thing you do is look to see what's going on in the world via Facebook, don't you? You pick it up and, like that comment, Hazel's at another Starbucks. But actually, as you do in life, you constantly see, and it's easy to get absorbed by that, isn't it? But actually that time, and I've made I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but I've almost made a pledge that, all right, I'm not going to go on Facebook until I've done my daily devotion. And I picked that app, and instead of just trying to flip my program in, and I've got to admit, it's flipping hard work. That instead of opening up Facebook, I open up my daily reading. And instead I'll do my first 20 minutes. So it's starting the day with something positive and inputting into my life. Because actually I want the relationship with my Heavenly Father to grow, to develop, that changes me, that is something within inside me that actually is going to grow and go on and set me up for the day. Our relationships with our friends and our family are so important. I don't know about you, but I love it when, we get our family together and we just have it might be a few minutes, but we have a few minutes praying together. So important. My granddad was 95 years old and passed away a few months ago. And I used to love just calling him for a few minutes. And, we would just have a few minutes praying together, which actually was an incredible time to spend because I invested into that relationship. And actually, if that's the feeling I get from spending time with my granddad praying, how do you think our Heavenly Father feels when we spend time praying? And the second one was actually, I believe in mission because of accountability. Proverbs 26 says, many claim to be loyal, but it is hard to find a trustworthy person. How do we prove ourselves to be trustworthy? How do we prove ourselves to be accountable? Actually, we do that by being consistent, that actually we are what we are on a regular basis. Luke 16 verse 10 says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with very much. It's not about the times that I'm seen up here, and it's not about the times that you're seen doing stuff. It's about what goes on when you're at home. It's what goes on between Monday to Saturday when you're not at church. We're accountable to each other. We're accountable to our Heavenly Father. God sees everything that we do. When you think about that, that is scary. That you are held accountable for everything that you do. You earn people's trust by being close to them, by communicating with them in an open manner, to spend time to get to know them. Sadly, I've got to know some of you fairly well. I know that he likes a Chinese takeaway or two. But actually, it says in Proverbs, friends love through all kinds of weather, and families stick together in all kinds of trouble. You know, the last 18 months, we've been through the mill, haven't you? Let's face it. Flipping COVID. It's stopped us doing so much, and it's impacted so many lives. So many people have lost family members. But actually, what does that do as a church? It gives us an opportunity to spend time with people, because people want to talk to each other. People want to communicate. We've noticed it so much. You know, we've lived in our road for, Hannah's 21 years. We lived in that road, apart from when we went to Bradford for 3 years. Over the last 18 months, during the COVID lockdown, we've got to know every single one of our neighbours. They've been in our house since lockdown's lifted. We've had meals together. We've had street parties together. We've actually got to know them. And actually, as a result of that, through a natural conversation, it comes up, so what do you do? Actually, this is what we do. You do what? So actually, a result of what we've been doing and communicating with them, we've now got some of our neighbours who gave to Rachel's Dress Appeal. The majority of the people that on our street have all donated to Rachel's Dress Appeal. And actually, what we've done is we've built relationship, which has led to accountability, because outside of a church environment, some people are really sceptical about giving to charities. Because how do I know that if I give you £10, it's going to do what you say it's going to do, and I'm not buying a brand new car out of it? I haven't got a brand new car out of it, sadly. No, I'm kidding. But actually what we do, and that accountability, it was reflected through the relationship that we've built with our project leaders. That actually if we say, right, Lawrence, here's X amount of money, I want you to do this. How do we know we do it? I know that he does it because of the relationship and the accountability that we've built over year after year. How do I know he does it? Because we've been consistent in communicating with him. We've been consistent in praying together. We've been consistent in spending time and investing with one another. Just this week, I spoke to Lawrence, and I knew there was something that I really didn't want to have a conversation about. And I'm thinking, I can't not say anything. I'm me after all. I can't not say something. And Rachel said, well, you're going to have to be really careful how you word this, and it could have had a negative connotation, if you like. And I sat with him, and we did all the other business, and we've concluded everything else. And I said, Lawrence, I just need to talk to you about this. And he said, okay. So I sort of like roundabout worded everything I needed to get out. And do you know what? He turned round to me and he said, thank you so much for being so open and actually talking to me what was on your heart. He said, amazingly, you're the second person to actually say exactly that to me today. And we're talking about how we can grow, about how we can develop and expand. And actually what's amazing Lawrence's heart is he wants to, we're talking about as an organisation, how we can see all of our projects be self-sufficient. And we're just putting a document out to him about how we're going to transition that. And we're saying we want to do this over a 7-year period. And I've had this conversation with Lawrence, and he said, actually, I don't want 7 years. I want to do it in 3 to 4 years. He said, because actually that will release you to finance other projects around the world. To see the heart and the DNA that's coming through the projects that are doing. We've got it going on in Uganda. We've got it starting to build in momentum in India, where they're saying, actually, we want to have a missional mindset where we can invest into other countries, where we can invest into other wow projects around the world. And actually, how's that done? Because actually, for us as an organisation, we've been transparent in what we do with them. We don't have any hidden agendas. We're open to communicating. If you've ever joined us on one of our Wow Coffee and Chats, and if you haven't, there's another one coming up, we will have our project leaders on those Wow Coffee and Chats, and we'll just open it up. And we'll say to you, if you've got any questions, you can ask Harrison. You can ask Lawrence. And there's not many organisations that will actually say to you, communicate directly with our project leader. We don't give them a brief and say, you can answer this, you can answer that, you don't answer this, don't answer that. Actually, we want to be with you, transparent with you as a donor to what our heart is. And actually, that's the same with our project leaders. You know, it's so important that we are transparent. I learnt a big lesson fairly early on in being a dad with Hannah on this. Hannah had her first iPhone that we took the contract out, she paid for it. We made her work around the house. She wasn't getting it for free. But actually, at the end of her phone contract, she was due an upgrade. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, actually, I've paid quite a bit for the phones. You've just paid the contract. I'm going to have that phone, and I'm going to sell it. And I can say this because Rachel's not here today. And I have a little cash fund that is the Andy David cash fund that's hidden somewhere that Rachel knows nothing about. Nobody else has any of those, do they, Russ? So, you know, as a man, it's important that you have your little bit. So I'm thinking, right, her phone's up, so I can get that phone back, I can sell it, and that money can go into the Andy David cash fund. Good plan. Thought it was going to work. So I said to Hannah, I think it's a really good idea that you upgrade your phone. You can afford to do it now. You've got some money coming in. Yep, that's fine. And just give me your phone and I'll sort it out. That's no problem. She went, oh, Dad. I said, yeah. She went, I'm giving my phone away. I went, you what? I'm thinking that phone's worth a bit of money. She's gone, no, I'm going to give it away. Because, Dad, you've always told me. I knew it would come back to bite me. She said, Dad, you've always said we're blessed to be a blessing. Yeah, well, not on this occasion, no. But actually what she did was she knew somebody in her youth group that had damaged their phone, and she gave that phone away. How incredible that actually she's clocked it, that she's blessed to be a blessing. You know, I struggled with the transparency bit at that point, but actually the DNA and the heart of that we've created as a family, she's picked up at the age of 12 years old and was prepared to do that. You know, when it comes to transparency with our finance, it's essential that we're transparent with God. It's not about how much that we give. It's about the attitude in which we give it. And that's not just about finance. That's about the time that we have. That actually, if you're going to do something, do it and be happy about doing it. Actually put a smile on your face and do it. Don't be miserable about it. Actually do it with a smile on your face so you are transparent to anybody who sees you that you've got the right attitude to actually do it. You know, Luke 16:9 says, use your worldly resources to benefit others. 1 Timothy 6:18-19. Tell them to use their money to do good. They should be rich in good works and generous to those in need. Always be ready to share with others. By doing this, they will be stirring up their treasures as a good foundation for the future so that others may experience true life. I look back at how missions was demonstrated to me. And actually, it gave me a great foundation because of the example that was set to me. So in answer to the question, why do I believe in mission? Actually, I believe in mission because, yes, it is the Great Commission. As I said, it's not the Great Omission. But actually, I believe in mission because I want to see lives transformed. I want to see people come to know Jesus. I want to see people actually have their lives turned around to have dignity and hope and to see them doing it for themselves. And have we learned anything over the last 18 years of doing WOW? Yes, we've learned so much. But actually one thing that we've learned above all else is every single one of our partners, every single one of the women that we work with, the families, whether it's we feed, ultimately, they don't want our help. They need our help. They don't want it because they want to be able to do it for themselves. And actually, by switching the model that we had to where we are now, that actually we're empowering these families and these women to be able to do it for themselves, has completely transformed their mindset and our mindset at the same time. So we're down this road of mission where we're seeing lives transformed. You know, I love the fact that we've got footage of Mama Julia grinding that maize on a bit of a tin roof, you know, to actually grind the cassava, to bake the cassava cakes, because she wanted to send her grandchildren, not her children, her grandchildren, to school. I'm so glad that we've got the footage of Jessica stood outside that house giving us that big wave. Because actually, they've gone through the project, they've gone on to meet Jesus, but the legacy that they leave is their mission that they've invested into their children and into their community. The transformation in Jessica's life, where everybody knew that she was a Christian, where everybody knew that she had built that house because of the perma gardens that she was farming, that they were all really skeptical. Now, the story about Jessica is actually, she was a widow who came to that area, and when she first moved to that area, nobody would talk to her. Nobody would really communicate with her, because her husband had died, so as far as they were concerned, she was an outcast. But actually, with what she received from the WOW project, with what she's built and what she did, and this is the bit that gets you, when it came to seeing Jessica's funeral in Uganda, every single one of those women in that community that shunned her were at her funeral to celebrate her life. We talk about transformation. Jessica's life was transformed. The community was massively transformed. So I believe in mission because we can see examples of transformation. You know, I know as a church you are very missionally minded. We love the fact that you are so behind us as an organisation. But actually, you know, if you don't support us, I'm going to blow your minds now. There's a little thing on the back of the card there. There's 2 ways you can sign up to give. You can scan a QR code. That's on your mobile phone, Jerry. It's a little squiggly box. If you scan it, it'll take you right to the website and you can sign up there. For those of you who like to fill in bits of paper, there's bits of paper that you can collect from us at the back. But thank you so much for everything you do, for your encouragement, for your support, even for you, Jerry, wearing your purple tie on a WOW Sunday. Hey, it's fantastic. So thank you so much. God bless you.